Hi everyone, it's Mr. D at In the Middle with Mr. D1 at blogspot.com, and I want to welcome you to this Zoom today. When I started teaching middle school, I felt like a horrible failure. I had terrible classroom management. I couldn't get great tone out of them. I struggled with the changing male voice. I had no clue about so many things. I had 6 years of college education and zero clue how to actually teach middle school. Um, in about year four, I started to figure some stuff out, and I made a vow to myself then that I would figure out a way someday to share some of the things that I had learned that worked for me. And there was no social media then, no YouTube, no Facebook. I wrote stuff, sent it to publishers, music publishers. It didn't work. And finally, social media helped. A TPT came along and I used social media, and teachers have supported my work. And I thank you so much for being here today. I want you to make sure that this is a dialogue. You want to use the chat, you want to type stuff in there to get things covered. But I want to say right up front, my core mission is to help teachers. One of my core missions in life. I've been writing blog posts, making YouTube videos, now TikTok videos, posting materials online for over a decade. Most of my advice is free and available on my social media channels. So Joe Alden Wagaman is here. I want to welcome him and thank him for his time. He does this for me. I appreciate you. He's going to put a link to social media, all my free social media stuff, and just choose your channel. I recommend that you pour your favorite beverage before you go down the rabbit hole because it'll make it more fun. All right. So we'll get that to you in a moment. The link, the QR code. We're going to be presenting QR codes and links throughout this in the chat. And Alden will share his screen and show as well so that you guys can get the items that I'm offering today and the free stuff, all the things. So he's about to share it. There's the first QR code if you want to do that, and he's going to put a link in the chat. Alden Wagaman again is here. He's a teacher. Alden, where do you teach?
I teach at Lincoln Middle School, which is a part of the MSD of Pike Township in Indianapolis, Indiana.
Yeah, awesome. And how
Yeah.
many years for you?
Just finished my first year, and then just finished total teaching wise. Just finished my third year of teaching. So
Oh, okay. All right. So
yeah,
first, yeah, third year when it usually turns, right? So, for me, whenever I've gone to a new job, but all right. So I want to go on here. So that you don't miss these sessions, guys, in the future, because I'm going to do another one at the end of July, maybe some more. I want you to make sure you're on my email list. So email me at inthemiddlewithmrd@gmail.com, and write subscribe in caps, and then I'll get back to you. I'm on vacation tomorrow. So it might pop back to you, but I promise I'll get you on there. Welcome again to So You Are Teaching Middle School Choir next year. I'm going to share some things that have worked for me. I usually try to respect people's time, so I try to be done at noon. But today I'm going to stay after. Feel free to leave if you want. And it will not hurt my feelings. I just want to make sure that I give time to people as they need it. As always, when I present these Zooms, I offer something free in my TPT store. I offer a discount on S Cubed. There's a little, you can go to the TPT store and find those items. I'll be more specific later about what is in there, but you can find it now if you want. All right, so let's jump in. The lesson plan for today, I'm going to start with classroom management, and then I'm going to do a bunch of announcements to kind of catch up on my life and some other things. And then we're going to do the changing male voice near the end. I'm going to start answering some questions from the chat at about 11:45, and I'll go as long as we need to do that. Again, leave those topics you need covered in the chat, and Alden will interrupt me and help me cover those as we go. All right, so classroom management. As I said, I was terrible at the beginning. Um, I was supposed to teach high school. And right before I started my cooperating teaching experience, the night before, I was contacted by my supervisor, and she said, "You'll be doing middle." I was not happy. I did not want to do middle, and I was complaining about it all the next morning. But the universe stepped in, and that is where I was meant to be. I did 1 year of high school. Mid-career, it was just not for me. So I went right back to the middle, where I seemed to click. Maybe it's my immaturity, I don't know, but it just worked for me. And I still love working with them as I conduct choirs and things like that. So, my first advice about middle school classroom management is going to be very simple. Just be authentic. They're attracted to realness, repelled by fakeness. They can see it. My cooperating teacher was the best thing that happened to me, that middle school assignment. She looked at me, I don't know, week 2 or 3, and she said, middle school kids see through you. I didn't really understand it at the time, being so young, but they really do. And they know when you're not being honest. They know when you're not being fair and they don't like that. And when you don't admit that you're not being fair, you elicit reactions from that are really hard to deal with. But if you are authentic and they know how much you care about them, they don't really care how much you know. That's so trite, but it's true. They really need to know that you care about them. And when they do, they will follow you so loyally. They will work so hard for you. But they've got to feel like you really do care about them and you have to show it and they can see it in your eyes. And sometimes we get so caught up in we've got to do this concert or we've got to do all these things and we just kind of rush through. We need to stop and be with them. I made a video long ago called it's on my YouTube channel. It's called something like it's the first day of middle school choir. And it basically shows you this is more technical stuff that I do to get ready for classroom management to be successful than is from the heart. But it's important to me to be organized. And so I would print out labels of every name of every child that was on the roster in the 2 days before they would show. And then I would take the labels, make seating charts, and put every chair. I'd have my chart ready so I could call their names the first day. So every child had a place to be from the first day. I would play spa music because it calmed me. And I would create this calm, welcoming environment where they knew exactly where to go, when to go, so they were secure, especially sixth graders. They're new to middle school. They don't they're scared, that sometimes they get lost. Um, and they would come to the door crying. And so I would just, immediately, of course, say, it's okay. It's okay that you're late. It's not a problem. It's the first day and you're finding your way. And the other children are watching you when you do that. And they're getting impressions about how you treat children that will last them all year. So you can get that video on my YouTube channel, but it's basically they'd walk in, they'd know exactly where to go, they'd have a little puzzle to do. The spa music was playing, instructions were on the front so they could see. They would go find their seats. Not everybody would be able to find their seat. And so or maybe somebody had been added late, and I would just, for about 10 to 15 minutes, just let it flow. And it was all calming, 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 calming down for me and for them. And then as soon as everybody seemed to be settled and there was no more drifting coming in, I immediately recommend that you sing. For me, I did the first lesson of S cubed. I said, I'm Mr. Duncan. I want you to put everything away from your lap. I want you to sit uh, clean lap and just do what I do and follow me. So if you know S cubed, you know what I did. Basically, taught them the posture, taught them the hand signals, and we played the game. And they are singing first day. And we don't, I think it's deadly to talk about rules in the beginning, the first day, especially with the schedules being usually abbreviated. Um, Someone wrote to me when I was preparing for this, and they said, what about routines? How do you establish? Talking about the routines is death to them. You have to, but you need to do it first. Like in that first week, the first 2 weeks, I would take them through all the different things. Like, okay, so every day when you come in, there will be an activity. Just like today, there was a puzzle for you. There will always be an activity and it will always be on the board. That's all I would say. And then tomorrow when you come in, make sure that you do it. And you immediately start. You don't wait and ask. So you're setting those routines, the flow of your classroom. Ask yourself, what is the flow of my classroom? What are the possible impediments to a good flow in the classroom? Where are there going to be backups? For example, I had classes as large as 84. So I would have two sets of folders where they would put their folders each day, one set with the even numbers, one set with the odd numbers. And when I finally gave the folders to the children about maybe a week or 6 days in, they would I would take them through that process. I would have a list on the wall of the names and the folder numbers and a system in place about what to do, if it was turned the wrong way, or if the folders were not put back at all. I would have a student helper to go check randomly every day. These are things that are going to help your process. When they would be dismissed, I would say in the class of 84, row one, you go put your folders back and then come sit down. Okay. And then row two, like just very orderly. So they need so much structure really to be successful. They thrive on it. They definitely do better with it. It doesn't mean that you can't get out of that structure sometimes and that the routines don't change. They should occasionally, but you need to establish them first. In my TPT store, there's a product called the first month of middle school chorus where I talk into the camera and tell you everything I did for the whole first month of school, like even the songs that I did. So I want to see real quick. Well, I want to talk more that my syllabus is in my TPT store for free. Um, I want to talk about how I went over that real quick before I take some questions about classroom management. So I would start going over the syllabus like day three, and I would do it in 10-minute increments. 10 to 15, and then we would sing the rest of the time. Again, because talking to them only is just deaf. They just start checking out and they don't really hear you. Doing is what matters. When I would go over it, it would take me about a week. I would get it signed electronically or otherwise, depending on the year. And we would definitely talk about everything, the consequences of misbehaviors. You need to address those. You need to say what happens. But what's more important is that you do what you said. When they, because at the end of week two is the start of the end of the honeymoon period, right? Always, without fail. Every child who has decided at the start of the school year that I'm going to come in and I'm going to be great this year, and then they're children, right? And they I mean, I know many times I've said, I'm going to work out 3 hours a week, and then I don't do it, or whatever. So it's like everybody's got their thing, and these are children. So then when they start showing you who they are, you've got to do things to follow up with what you said you were going to do. My general procedure was to try not to always maintain dignity, always, right? To I wanted to create a situation where when I had children who were trying me, that if I ever needed to say to them, if they disrespected me, because they do, sometimes they will disrespect you, I needed to be able to look the kid in the eye and say, "Have I ever disrespected you?" And I needed to know what the answer was going to be. It was going to be no, because I won't do that. Like I don't, and if I have, I need to apologize, right? I need to make sure that I do that. One of the things I hate that I've heard over the years is that I'm the teacher and you have to respect me. It's not true. What's true is that respect is circular. It is important for you to show respect by how you treat individual children because they are watching us. You need to show respect to your colleagues because they're watching how we treat them. We have to make sure that we're doing that. Now, I would use proximity, eye contact. The teacher eye look is there's nothing like it. We know how to do it. That stopping when we, stare at them, and sometimes that's all it takes, right? And then other times, maybe they have ADHD and they're not really able to like focus and see that you're doing it. Proximity is next, right? Just go, keep teaching, stand near them, look at them, and then they might correct themselves. And these are for minor infractions, obviously. And then if you need to do more, then lean in when you're at proximity and say, "Can you stay with me after class?" Like really softly and just let's chat. And then you're going to talk to them one on one about what's going on and you're going to create a relationship. And after you create that relationship, maybe you find leadership roles for that person. Maybe you do things to make that person feel special. Maybe that person is doing attention seeking behaviors because they're just not getting it anywhere else. And maybe you're the person that needs to help that. So when you have continued things happening, you're going to have another conversation with the child, and you're going to say, if these continue, I'm going to need to be in touch with your parent. Um, and that can be email or phone call. And they're going to be like, you sometimes, most times, like, no, please, no, no, I'll fix it. But not always, right? And so you just have to keep moving quickly through the process. Make the contact if the behaviors don't improve. Come up with a system where maybe with the parent where when you contact the parent, make sure you are not judgy, not judgmental. A bad thing to say that's going to be taken wrong is your child has an attitude problem. No, you need to say things like, yesterday I asked Sarah to turn around 3 times, and on the third time, she rolled her eyes and popped her lips at me. That's what you're doing, okay? You're doing you're like kind of like a lawyer, right? You're presenting the case very just give the facts, right? Well, lawyers don't always give the facts, but you're very matter of fact. This is what happened, so that and document it as it happens, so that you can be accurate. Because middle school children are notorious for, if you miss a fact about something, they will take it and run, and they will tell the parent, that's not what I did. And then your credibility is in question. And then if you do have to go further with the child and the parent, you're at a disadvantage. You're going to be on the struggle bus trying to recover from that one I that you didn't dot, or from that one T that you didn't cross, right? So make sure you document as soon as you can, as soon as the children are out of the room, exactly what happened in the clearest way. Just make a voice memo if you have to do that. If you don't have time to write it or type it, just use your phone voice memo so that you have it all down. So that when you finally do get to the point where you have to have a parent conference, when they come in, again, I laid it out. I had their grades printed. I had objective sources of grading, like maybe quiz grades or a quiz that they've done, or maybe it's a folder. And I have an example of the good folder that a child has done that's perfectly the way it's supposed to be. And then I have an example of that child's folder that's very clear, because, chorus is weird. It's like, when a child is not doing what they're supposed to be doing. You can see that they're not making effort. You can see when their posture isn't good. You can see and feel all the things that they aren't doing, that they're just coasting. But that's more subjective. And you have to be objective and subjective in order to get the parent to get on your team, because you have to be a team with them to make sure that you're doing what's best for your children in that classroom, and for yourself, and respect for your teaching. When I started with classroom management, the last thing you'll do is report it to the administrators, okay? Unless it's a fight. If it's a fight, that's different. But we're talking about chronic misbehaviors that you need to address. So when you do have to go to the administrators, you need to have gone through everything you possibly can with the parent in order to make sure you have done your due diligence to create and build the relationship with the parent and with the child. I've had parent conferences when I knew, I could tell from the tone of emails, from the tone of a phone call, a voice, that this was going to be a belligerent parent who was not supportive. And in that case, when I would have to have um, a conference, I would invite my supervisor, an AP, even the principal, or just my direct supervisor to be in the room with me. One year I had a an irate parent with a child that I knew it was going to be, so I had my supervisor there. Um, he was very defensive walking in the door. He sat down. I presented my case, um, and basically said, we've got to do something to help this, because it's his grades are low and it's hurting the classroom environment. I said it in a better way than that, but you get the gist. And the kid said something that wasn't true to the parent, and the parent got irate at me for saying something to the kid, and the parent came out of the chair, and I thought he was going to hit me. So that was a little scary, but my supervisor had him sit down. About 4 years ago, 4 years ago, yeah, I was at the gym, and this parent had been going to that gym for all the years, but he had never talked to me. This child by now is 25 years old. The parent comes up to me and he says, "My son is now married. He's in his dream job, and he's doing great. We did a great job." And I was like, "Oh, that's wonderful." I mean, because they change, their brains change, and they grow up. I would say that that meant a lot to me, obviously, and that we don't realize how important it is to take the time to have those conferences, even when they're scary. Alden, are there any things in the chat about classroom management?
Yeah, there is a really good question. Someone asked, let me try to see if I can find it. Where's the chat go? Where'd it go?
That's all right. I put
Yeah, there's someone who asked about like favorite like I think songs or like rounds that you would
Yeah,
use.
yeah.
I know you were talking about when you would come in, you always start with singing. So like, what are some like songs and rounds you would use?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it is important to sing right off the top. So I like John Jacobson has some really good partner songs that are good. And then there's all kinds of round books out there. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I haven't done it in so long now. Just find your favorite rounds in any round book and to keep it very, very, very simple so that they feel successful. The reason I like to play the game Forbidden Pattern at the start is because it's not about liking or disliking a song, and I want to make sure that they I don't hear them go, I don't like that song, early in the year. But if you have a round or something that you really love, obviously they're going to sense that you love it, and that's going to help. If anybody has in this room sorry, not chats, rounds or cannons that they love, please put them in the chat or speak up and tell us. There are so many, but I haven't been using them because all I'm doing now is all state choirs and regional choirs and stuff like that. So this is not even in my brain. But rounds and cannons are awesome to use at the start of the year. Any other questions in there?
Yeah, we got one from Laura. Laura asks, what is your classroom reward system, individual based or team based, prizes, dojo points?
Okay, I see some people answering the questions. Yeah, so I am a firm believer in praising in public and correcting in private and acknowledging good behaviors as soon as you can, right? Even from posture, right? Your posture looks amazing. And because other kids responded, like, oh, well, okay, well, good. I'll get mine good. I'll make it good. And, so that's number one is that you're praising people in public. I would throw random starbursts at children. Just and then other children like, what just happened? For doing good things. Gosh, I can't think what else I would do. The starbursts were my biggest thing, and team building is so critical, guys, to classroom management. I can't even say enough. Like one of the games that I always played at the start of the year, and it's on my YouTube channel, is called the Cup Up game. This game is just so much fun and it teaches so many lessons that are gonna be so helpful to building your choir culture. We have to make sure that we are, creating the culture that we want. That game is fun, and I love everything that's fun and that makes kids laugh. And that's the culture that I want in my room. It's not every day 24/7, but that's kind of what I would use. And I have tons of other team building games and find some great ones and use them with the kids. Alden, anything else on classroom management?
Yeah, I will second that. I play the cup up game at the beginning of every year. The
Oh,
beginning of
good.
every year. Yeah, it's it's fun and get a lot of can't we just get it this time? But yeah,
Yeah.
um, yeah. Vinny asks, how do you correct in private? I think he might be meaning like like with our how our society's changed and not being one-on-one with students. Like, how do you best go
Mhm.
about that?
Well, number one, when I ask a child to stay after class or see me before school, I would always leave the door wide open to my room. It's always open. We're always near the door. We can be seen at any time. But in terms of correcting in private, you have to have one-on-one relationships with these children. I mean, ever since I've been a teacher, people always said, be careful about having children one-on-one. But it happens, and we have all passed tests to be with children one-on-one. background checks, and we have to be able to have conversations with them to build those relationships. But it's important to do that when necessary, because if you belittle a student or correct a student publicly in a way that feels like you're denigrating them, you're going to suffer. I want to tell this quick story. It's true. It was my first year teaching. When I came in, I mentioned at the start of this conversation today, be authentic. I wasn't. I looked 12 years old, and the children, I felt like I needed to be authoritarian, and mean and not smile before Christmas. That's what everybody said. Don't smile before Christmas. That's what everybody told me. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do it. And that's just not me, right? It's not me. Like I'm gregarious and silly and inappropriate and all the stuff, right? So the first semester I had been that right, and I was determined to get to Christmas without. And the children hated me. And there was a fight that broke out outside of my classroom, and in the fight, these two girls, they were in chorus, both of them, but they weren't in my class when it happened. They were outside the door. I got it to stop. I had to write it up, and they were suspended for 3 days. And these two girls, when they came back, it was a Friday, and they hated me so much that on that Friday afternoon, apparently, I didn't know this at the time. I won't tell that part yet. When I came in on Monday, I smelled this horrible smell. And my room was the only room on the hallway. So I turned and I was going down the stairs, and there was a pile of poop outside of my door. And at first I thought maybe somebody brought their dog in on the weekend, and but there was toilet paper. This was intentional. I had created an environment where those children hated me so much because they knew I wasn't being authentic. I was being mean. I was berating them in front of their peers. That's how I learned. I was not a quick learner. Like I had to learn the hard way. So then when that made me dig deep and say, I got to change something, or I can't survive this. I really will not survive here. I'm going to have to get a different job. And so in January, I just came in and I started being myself. And I was still not effective classroom management. I still didn't understand what I needed to do. And it took me a little while to get that. But that's a true story. I tell it every time I do classroom management. Okay, so I see many students are disrupted because they didn't choose choir. How do you win them over? That's a hard situation. I just talked with a teacher last week who's in that situation. So I've been in that situation. When I was in New Jersey for 6 years of my 30, I was in a situation like that for all six. And choir, they I had to teach it. And so that's when, honestly, the truth, that's when I developed S Cubed, because I needed those kids to have fun. I needed them to sing. I needed to giggle with them. I wanted to build a relationship with them. Um, and so that's when I created it. I mean, they still didn't, many of them didn't want to always be there. It's just hard. And so I was thankful when I came to Atlanta and I got a job at a school where it was an elective. So sometimes, Vinny, you have to make choices. You have to not be afraid. If that situation isn't working for you, I say this all the time in my workshops, leave, find another job. Like just go, because you deserve to be in an environment that you want. And if you think you have a relationship with your administrators that is good, but they've got you in a situation where kids don't choose choir, first talk to them. Tell them your perfect world scenario. This is what I would love to have. At least one choir where they are, or maybe one choir and the rest general music. Or just it's up to you to drive the program. I mean, you've been asked to lead it. And if they don't seem receptive, have confidence in your own ability, start looking. In 2020, we all know what happened then. In January of 2020, I was not happy at Henderson, where had been teaching and where I ended up retiring from, for a multitude of reasons. The administration had changed; things were coming unglued all around, and something happened, and it was the final straw for me. It was January, And I just decided to start looking for jobs. It's January. Of course, March is when the shutdown happened. And I didn't tell anybody. I didn't go and threaten. I didn't say, I'm going to leave if you don't, because that doesn't do anything. You just have to do it. So I started applying to jobs, and then I- right before the pandemic, my administrator found out, and she said, "What's going on?" And so I told her all the things, and we had a dialogue. But by then, I had already started to get interviews, and a week later, I got a job for the next year, and the pandemic happened, and I was like, "Oh, I don't think I should leave now." Like this would be a bad choice because I don't know how long this is going to go on. And then I ended up staying, and things did, we had the pandemic to deal with, but it was better in terms of my own the things that were bothering me. So I've gotten off topic here, but you asked the question, and I think it just feels like I should answer it. Alden, anything else real quick because I want to do some announcements.
That is all for now. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So,
Mhm.
guys, before we do changing voice, I'm going to do some quick announcements here. So it's been over a year since I've done these Zooms. I know many of you are not, maybe you're new to me. I have conducted some regional things this year, some all-state things. I adjudicated choirs in Alabama. I love doing that so much. I've gotten lots of new songs and rep in my in that I've just loved hearing. I'd love to come to you if you would have me and work with your children. So my post-career retirement started in 2022. And in January of this year, I started coaching pickleball at Lifetime. I'm a pickleball nut. I absolutely love it. And I'm not playing it this morning and I'm bitter. No, I'm happy to be here. I'm very happy to be here and thankful. I became a certified travel agent for a company called Fora this year because I'm doing mostly cruises. Um, and I'd love to help you with a cruise if you want. Last fall, I was contacted by the makers of a new social media app, and it's called Merle. There it is. Meet in real life. This app is new. They came to me in October and asked me to be a part of it. And so I researched it. I talked to them. They weren't open yet. They were testing it. I'm like, what is this app? And it's an app where people can seek help from others or they can give help to others. Maybe you're a gardener. Maybe you're really good organizer in your house and people want to seek your help for that. It's that. Okay. It's like if LinkedIn and Instagram had a baby. And so it finally opened in April, and I've tested it, and I would love for you to go test it. You don't have to join, there's no fee, but you just go and check it out. There's a lot of cool things on there. People from all over the world are there, from astrologers to actors to organizers to everything you can think of. If you can imagine a topic, it's there. All right, so we're going to scroll down here. Since last August, you guys have released so many new things. I've got stuff about sub plans that non-music subs can use. I've got a new line called Quick. I need ideas for my choir lesson with all sorts of topics in it. They're like $3 to $5. I've got stuff on musical theater units. If you know me, I'm a Broadway nut. I love it. And these units are giant units where you will learn, you'll have lots of activities, and they all follow the philosophy of S cubed, 3/4 cup fun plus 1/4 cup learning no, 3/4 cup learning plus 1/4 cup fun equals success. So my TPT stuff, we need reviews, guys. If you've purchased my stuff this year, please review it. It helps teachers. So we're going to drop down here and get you the links to all the things that are free today. I've got a $30 unit on, where is that? I think it's on, yeah, that purple one there is where you get the free stuff, that link on the purple one. There's a unit on hairspray. It has the musical hairspray, musical theater stuff, singing stuff, games, stuff if they watch the movie, like to follow along, quizzes, all sorts of things in there. It's $30. Normally it's free today. One of my quick lessons is free on teaching concert etiquette. There's a sub plan that's free until 1 o'clock today. And then S cubed Google Slides version is 50% off until 1 o'clock today. And lastly, there's a new program on TPT called School Access, where your administrators can buy things for you. So I highly recommend that you look at that black QR code so you can figure out how they can pay for your stuff. All right, let's go to the changing male voice. I really struggled with this at first. I remember my choirs were all mixed. I didn't know how to work with their voices, and I'm a male, and I've been through it, right? It was um, a challenge to figure out their voices. So I'm going to tell you some things I learned. Number one, when their voices haven't changed, if you try to force them to sing low, they won't go below F below middle C without going sharp. Okay, that's a really important fact. So try not to force it, you know. Encourage them to sing with an alto or with a soprano when their voices haven't changed. Um, when their voices begin to change, you're gonna you're gonna need, if you're female especially, avoid dropping the octave because then they drop another octave, right? It's just something triggers in their brain. When you're working with them, I tell everybody to find where their voices are located. Where do their voices live? So I'll have a child come in one on one in the morning before school. And if he's a droner, an octave dropper, I will find where it lives. And usually when that happens, I've noticed it's like maybe C sharp to B flat if I do a minor third. No, that's not the minor third. Yeah, anyway, I'll do a minor third from C sharp and I'll sing Sol Mi Sol and then have them echo it back so that they feel and experience what it's like to match pitch, even though their voices are so new and so different. Their musculature is able to handle the range that maybe is only 5 notes big, but they need to feel and experience what it's like to match pitch. And then you just go up by half steps. And I would sing it, and then they would sing it back. And then when they get up to maybe where it doesn't work anymore and their musculature can't reach the notes anymore, you stop. You say, "Do you see that you're not matching pitch anymore?" And they go, "Yep." And then you teach them how to sing falsetto. If they had you in sixth grade or seventh grade and they were singing high, it's just the same, except their musculature is going to collapse more quickly or crack more quickly when they do it, now that it's not the same voice. And so you want to tell them try to sing falsetto and match pitch rather than drop the octave or rather than drone so that you can help them not sing out of tune or not drop the octave. Think of it. It's like if they were walking like this all the time, then obviously their musculature is going to be in that position. And just because you say straighten up, they might for a second, but then they're just going to go right back to it because their musculature is so trained in that manner. It's really important to not let them sing down the octave or drone every day without addressing it early. Regarding repertoire, in sixth grade, I tended to do treble, two part, um, in or unison even, just to get the vowels good. In seventh grade, I always split by gender. So I would let kids blend in to both classes if they wanted to. Like if the boys were unchanged and they wanted to be in the other class, it's fine. I'd have a treble and I'd have a TB. And the TB choir was helpful to me because I could help the boys really get comfortable with their voices without having the issue of doing it in front of the girls. Some people are really good at that. Some teachers, I'm not. And I knew it. So I just would separate them out. And then the girls would be able to really soar, develop their tone. Then by eighth grade, we would do three-part mix SAB. And I didn't really, I mean, it was an advanced choir, but it wasn't as advanced as some choirs. You know, I didn't audition ever, my kids. And these kids were considered advanced because they had completed 2 levels of S cubed. So that was that. So with rep, I want to talk about some of the best people for this age group. Roger Emerson is one of my favorite. He knows how to write for the changing male voice in a mixed setting, SAB. We have, Roger Emerson, um, Greg Gilpin. He's awesome. His stuff, he knows how to write stuff that is not homophonic. You want to avoid homophony when you're trying to get the students to sing, you know, in a mixed way. It's hard. We have to teach them to sing the octaves, the changing voice and the unchanged voice in unison really well so that you make overtones. Their ears get tricked by it when they hear that octave drop in eighth grade or in seventh grade. They get tricked by it, and we have to make those octaves happen and gel very nicely so that they can learn to hear it and not be confused by it. A lot of times when the girls would come in and mix after seventh grade was separate, they would sing sharp because the hearing that low voice would throw them. So you have to really take time to make those octaves gel and to create overtones with them, and then do the parts the way that you would do, um, when you're singing SAB, for example. I see some questions have come up. Alden, do you want to share anything that seems like important to address?
Yeah, there's a great question. Beth asked, I would love some insight in choosing repertoire with a seventh, eighth grade tenor bass choir, if I have some unchanged voices in there.
Hmm. Um, I've got a product in my store called Some Song Choices for Middle School Choir that is a running Google Doc. If you email me, I will go into that document and find some of those things for you and send them to you because I've got lots of things listed in there. They don't pop into my head immediately because this is a giant document that I continue to add on to as I hear choirs, as I adjudicate choirs, as I conduct choirs and try new music. So I want to make sure you get that information. So email me. But again, I'm going on vacation tomorrow, so I'm not going to email back for a while, but I promise I'll get back. Okay. Anything else in there, Eldon?
Yeah, there's a good one by Javara. Javara asks, how do you help boys deal with voice cracks?
Well, I tell them that it's normal, and that it's going to happen, that your voice is going through so many changes. Like you've grown 6 inches this year. It's the same as when you feel clumsy because you've grown and you don't feel as athletic, or maybe you feel more athletic. But you're going through changes and it's normal and it's going to happen, and don't let it be a thing. Just learn to laugh at yourself when it happens, and it's going to be okay. That's pretty much it. Just don't make it a thing. The I was going to say one more thing about female teachers. When you have to work with a kid, a boy whose voice has changed one on one, to try to find their voices, I was talking about a little bit ago, always bring in either another boy whose voice is changed and who can match pitch really well and have them sing the low parts rather than you, because again, they'll drop, or have a male teacher come in and do it so they can hear what it sounds like. That's going to be really helpful to you. Any other questions in there, Alden?
Yeah, there's two more that I looking. There, let's see here. Someone asks, I cannot separate classes. My program is locked into a block schedule and choirs are by grade level. Any suggestions?
Well, again, as I mentioned earlier, always dream. Always fight for what you want in the most respectful way, understanding with your administrators that you aren't the only factor in the building, but be assertive about what you want, right? That's how you get it. Like I when I tell the story in my rebuilding your choir or building your choir program, in 2009 I was at Henderson. I'd been there for like 7 years, and my husband got a job out of the country, and so I had to move, and I had to quit my job because I didn't know when we'd come back. And I had by then, like I think by 2006, I had been going to the administrators 2002, 3, 4, 5, and saying, "This is what I want. This is what I want. Please, can we make it happen?" Without being obnoxious. And I would always do it when the schedules were being made. And then by 2006, I got the schedule that I wanted. Now, it was not exactly as I had originally envisioned, but because I went to them and respectfully said, "This is the perfect world. This would be so good. And here's why," they found another solution that was even better than the one I thought. So sometimes if you go with the right approach, you'll find something even better than you could have imagined. And when I left in '09, the minute I was out the door, they put it back the way it used to be. And then I came back in 2010, not knowing I'd be back in 2010, not knowing the job would become open, not knowing I just missed one school year, anything. And there was a recession. I didn't think I'd even get a job. And I lucked out and got the job back at Henderson, but they had gotten rid of everything. And so I had to earn my way back to the situation I wanted, and it took 2 years. So I'm saying this to say, fight for what you want, and if you don't get it, leave and find a place where you can have what you want. You deserve it. It is really that simple. If you believe in yourself and you want the career that you deserve, I mean, it's really that simple. What is my perfect world? Not right now. Being retired, not going to the classroom every day. I loved it until I didn't. Oh, before my perfect world? Okay. Um, what I had, it was sixth grade, anybody can come in and encouraged to come in. It was boys and girls mixed. It was seventh grade. I had seventh grade TB choir, seventh grade SA choir, SSA choir. Eighth grade, I had all the eighth graders in one single classroom. I could only have 84, so I would usually have to cut, which I hated doing, but I wanted eighth grade to be an advanced situation. And the other class of eighth grade was my assistant director's class. Um, I love musical theater. We would always do a big musical Broadway review at the end of the year, which was the engine that cranked my program. Really, it was because I love Broadway so much. And we learned so many lessons through those stories, and I just love it. So I had 20 kids who would help me create that show. We would start at the beginning of the year. Like they would brainstorm and they would do projects about new Broadway shows. And they would present them to me about why they loved them and why we should do something from that show. And then we would have auditions. Any child that auditioned for the show, if they did it, if they stood up and they turned in their consent form, they showed up and did a minute-long audition, even in a group of five, they would be in the show. Now they might not be featured in the show, but they would be in the show. And then we would pick about 30 kids that we would feature with solo moments and things like that. It was magical, even though it was in a gym. I had a terrible setup. But the kids loved it, the community loved it, I loved it, and so I just kept fighting for what I wanted until I got it back, and that's how I finished. The minute I retired in 22, what did they do? They not only went back to what it was before, they made it even worse. It was so bad, and the teachers that have been there, the one who came after me did a phenomenal job under really awful conditions. I mean, he is really good at working with middle school choirs, and then he left 2 years later because he wasn't getting what he wanted. And the new guy just finished his first year, and I don't know how he's holding up. He's a young teacher. I haven't really heard anything, so I don't know. Any other questions, Alden?
Yeah, there's a really good one. Emily asks, any tips for retaining numbers? I will be a new middle school, high school director this fall in a small district, and I'm expected to grow the program back up.
Well, um, for building, do stuff that you absolutely love because they'll sense your passion. That's number one. Number two, build relationships with the people in the elementary feeders or whatever, however, if you have something like that. I went and sang for all of them. I just got a little bus and went. And then later in my career, the district supported all of us doing that. And that was hugely effective for getting kids to want to join chorus. Remember that word of mouth is everything. The community's talking. The kids are talking. They know what's going on in your classroom. They know if kids are enjoying your classroom. If you're building an experience where every day they're smiling, laughing, giggling, at least some of the time, then you're gonna build. You've got to connect to the kids. Team building, like I mentioned earlier, is critical. Um, if your program isn't like in those first 3 years of my teaching that I was mentioning earlier, when I was feeling such failure, I would go home every day, and my little new puppy that was the only friend I had, I felt like was like, I would rub on him and I would just reflect on why that went so badly. What happened? What did I do? What was I doing? What could I do better? And I just soul searched. And that's why I think I ended up being able to figure things out. Because honestly, those first 3 years, I can't tell you the number of times I had sung on a cruise ship right before I became a teacher. I was like, that cruise ship, I want that job back. It was in Hawaii. But in hindsight, I'm so thankful that I figured it out. And grateful for every life that I touched and every life that touched me. Um, and when I hear from you or students about things I've helped them with, and I don't have all the answers. I mean, there's so many ways to do this job, but again, I'm just sharing what's worked and what worked for me and why I'm able to uh,
Hey,
be.
good.
Yep. All right, you guys, don't worry. You got a lot of people in the room. Other questions?
Yeah, this is more of a Amelia says it's I like this. I put a voice crack Hall of Fame in my room, and we signed it whenever we had a loud crack. My name was on there as
Perfect.
much as anyone else.
That is so good. And you guys, listen, when we do these Zooms, please put stuff like that in the chat or even tell it out loud. It's fine. It's like, I know there are so many great ideas out there like that, that are perfect for this age group. That is so, I get goosebumps. That's so perfect. It's so perfect.
Yeah,
Just handle it with humor. And
yeah,
it doesn't, laughter is such a great healer, when we're dealing with anything that's hard. So, I see here, what are some recommendations for good musicals? Okay, so I'm going to tell you to go if you have. I like Musical Theater International Juniors. Those are really good. I've done some of those, and the only reason I didn't do them on my gym floor is because it was a gym floor, and I just was like, I don't want to do that. I'm just going to do something on my own, But it was a lot of work. The junior versions are awesome because they give you the keys that work, they cut out the inappropriate stuff, they tell you ways to build sets and things. I mean, they tell you everything. It's like do this, do this, do this. It's so good. Yeah. I see we normalize voice cracks by shouting "Huzza" after it happens. Great. See these ideas in the room. A Little Mermaid's a great one. Yeah, okay, that's awesome. Yeah. All right. Any other things in the chat or anybody want to ask any more questions? We're coming up on the noon hour.
yeah. Yeah, let's see. Aaron asks, do you get into the anatomy of the voice? If so, what grade level and how thoroughly?
I don't. I
Uh,
think one thing, not that it's wrong, it's just I don't. Um, I I try it with middle school, like even with theory. I don't even get into the theory much, like what I wanted to create with S cubed was um, I wanted them to start asking questions when they learned X amount. And that's what happens when you stay with the program. They start asking questions that you would never anticipate because they want to know the information because you've given them so much ability. If we get mired in theory too early, it's a big turnoff for them.
mm,
Yeah. All right. So I see a lot of
yeah,
other questions
yeah.
popping. Yeah.
And then we have two live questions. Can
Okay.
we'll go, yeah, can we we'll go to Natalia first. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's go.
Yeah.
Hi. Try to make it quick. So my students thrive on the oral tradition. I have a lot of students who are having trouble reading in their reading classes, and looking at the score turns them away, turns them off. So while we're doing other things in small portions to help them process that, the majority of my program is ends up being rote oral tradition, which the high school teacher is very critical of.
Mm,
And so I just sharing with you that I feel like this is the right thing for the kids, and I need to sequence their literacy skills slowly for them. But
mhm,
at the same time, I feel depressed and pressured and as a failure that I cannot meet my high school person's expectations. And
mhm,
so I guess, wanted to hear something
mhm. That is hard.
back.
And I want to tell you one thing to go to now. It's free always in my TPT store. It's called Quick. I need ideas for my choir lesson, but it's called Reading the Choral Octavo. I want you to go get that because I know if they're struggling with reading, as so many kids do, and I was in a Title I school and I had a similar, I had kids, 50 languages were spoken in that school where I was. Like, so I understand what you're dealing with. But you do need to try to start, we have to teach them how to look at the choral octavo. We have to teach it. It's not easy and it takes some time, right? So that they will understand that there is valuable information coming from it. And then like with SQ, for example, we are building those literacy skills slowly, and a lot of my teaching would be considered rote in the early stages, right? it takes a while. It's like language. You don't learn to speak French because you went to France for 2 weeks. You learn to speak French because you're immersed, you're working in it, or you're in school in it for a period of years, right? If you're not a native speaker. It's the same with learning to read music. So just start doing your best to make the effort towards that literacy, whether it's with S cubed or some other thing. And don't beat yourself up when you're not always doing that. Like I use solfege, right? I use the hand signs. So when I get a piece of music early in the year with my sixth graders, for example, I would find the overall solfege pattern that that song had. It went from sol to mi to re to do, whatever, a lot. So, and then I would do that with them, and that helps them get the pattern in their ears. Yes, it's oral and probably a little bit roadish, but then I would immediately point them into the octavo. They don't know where to look. I mean, that octavo lesson is going to help you so much. Like they literally don't know where to look. I mean, who has a reading situation with six staves and the same words three times? I mean, that makes no sense to them. So you have to teach them, how it works. And that's what that lesson will do for you. I think it will help. Just start addressing it a little bit. When they learn that something valuable is coming out of that paper, they'll start looking at it more. And when you start pointing out things like, all right, this is what a forte sign looks like. Find it in there. Find it. Where do you see it? And then teach them how to count the measures. That's all in the lesson as well. So just take the time to do it. They will start looking. Thanks for the question. Now, Javera, you have one?
Yes. I might have typed it twice by accident, so I apologize.
You did
So,
what?
like, I might have typed the question twice by accident,
That's fine.
but so sometimes kids straight up don't want to participate. Like, they're either sitting there not singing, or they're not even grabbing their music. And I've seen that happen even student teaching, where almost everyone was singing, except for like maybe one or two people. But then I see situations where a lot of people they're not even standing up even when we have to stand up and stretch or something or sing. So like, how do you stop that from happening?
Well, there are a couple of things I would suggest. Number one, um, make sure that you're choosing music that you love, that they also like, at least a little bit. Secondly, make sure that you're introducing the music in a way that they can be successful as quickly as possible. Sometimes we kill the spirit of singing by how we introduce songs, right? And I've got a lesson in my TT store about that. You when you kill their spirits a little bit with by not maybe starting the song and teaching it in an engaging way at the start, you've lost them and they check out and they don't want to check back in. Um, the third thing I would say to you is hold them accountable with the grade. That is really important. In the age of digital grade books, I would immediately, when I see that happen, as soon as the child left, walk right up to the grade book, slap a grade down that was, in line with my syllabus for the daily grade. And then many of those children look at it immediately, and I would write the comment, didn't stand up when it was time to sing, wasn't singing 60% of the time. And you just write it in there and you have it documented. It's there. So often they would see it and then they would come back the next day. Boom, I'm being held accountable. You have to hold them accountable. And if you're in a situation where you're being told they can't fail, leave. Seriously, it's that simple. We have got as teachers to get what we earn and what we deserve, and we don't need to be treated like we don't know what kids need. I mean, they need us to hold them accountable. And failure is okay. I mean, and when they fail, oftentimes they'll fix it, when they see a failure. I used the 4.5 week, we had 9 weeks, the 4.5 week report card to wake them up in case they weren't looking at the digital grade book. And I would give them the grade they deserve, right, for their daily work. And the reason I did that is because it didn't count towards our honor roll. I didn't want to hurt a child who was normally okay in AB honor roll kind of thing, but who needed a wake-up call. We've got to, I say this quote all the time. People change when the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change. That is a quote that is the truth for all humans, including me, all of us. Why am I going to change? It's comfortable. It's comfortable. They're comfortable not standing. They're comfortable not singing because nobody's ever held them accountable. So you've got to. And it doesn't mean you're ugly to them in public. You're not. You just make sure that you hold them accountable. Thanks for the questions, Vera. I hope that helped. Are there other questions live?
Thank you.
Yeah. Rubrics are good. Michael, thank you. That's a great thing. Yeah, rubrics, perfect. I don't know that I have my daily rubric any longer. But guys, if any of you have one that you would send to me, if you're on my email list, I'll email it out if you give me permission. Like anything, or we can post it and I teach middle school chorus as well. So I'll make sure that you get it. Yep. Any other questions on chat, Alden, that I need to address? We're at the noon hour.
Yeah, I guess kind of going along the this rubrics and behavior. Rose asks, how do you handle kids who are disruptive on the first day of school before you have even established relationships and expectations?
Well, I observe the behavior and get information from the behavior, right? I don't humiliate the child. I just jot down the information. I make sure I know the child's name. The kids, I remember that the kids around are watching it and how I handle it, and I'm respectful. And then I find a way to talk to the child one-on-one before they leave me that day. And I ask what's going on, and I say what you did was inappropriate. And I just want to know what's going on. Like, are you okay? Are you okay? Like, are you stressed today because it's first day of school? You have to approach them that way. If you go in on them hard and you try to be stern, and they are children, and while there are some children that we don't like, obviously we can't like everybody, they can't know that. The minute they know that you don't like them, they're done with you. You have got to find ways to connect to them. That child is there to teach you some lesson in life, and you're there to teach that child some lessons in life. So just remember that. Another quote that I love is a Maya Angelou quote I use all the time. People forget what you say, they forget what you do, but they don't forget how you make them feel. So remember that when you're dealing with children. Remember that when you're singing with children. When you are singing with children and you've gotten to a point where they're so good and the song is so good and everybody's gelled, I get goosebumps thinking about it. It's like that is a feeling they are always going to remember, and by the same token, our words, if they're harsh or if we're being, not nice to the child, that's something they're always going to remember. And they're children, and it's our job to be respectful and to try to find out what's going on. Other questions? I see a lot of things popping up. So
Yeah, I guess on that point, Erica asks, what are kind of just some quick things like making class more engaging or like pacing, like repertoire and how many like minutes you would spend on each
Mhm.
thing?
Let me give you an idea. So I had classes of 50 minutes, and I saw my kids daily. So that was my setup. So every day I would spend 5 to 8 minutes on S cubed at the very start of class. They had their bell ringer warm up, and then they would do the lesson. I could speed through those things because I made it and I've done it so many times. And then at the end of that, we would stand up and do a vocal warm up. Very quick because S cubed, we are already singing, but I would use it to teach things like breathing, overtones, dynamics, all the stuff. And I always did a cappella vocal warm-ups behind the piano. Na, 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 drives me bananas. Okay. It's not really effective to me. It's not really instructive. And they just are like looking around the room and they're not really paying attention. So I always did a cappella vocal warm-ups that were direct and intended to do something. And maybe it's related to the rep. And I would do that within 3 minutes. I'd get it done. And then we would jump right into the rep. And I would do maybe 3 songs, work on songs, 10 minutes, about 10 minutes each. And then at the end, they put their folders away. That takes a little time when you have a large class. They come back and we would do a written and oral review of what we learned that day. Questions about the rep, questions about what we did, what was the focus, questions about whatever. And if there was time left, a team building game, if I had a quick one, but not every day, obviously, just when I could. Rehearsal skills. I have the rehearsal skills posted in front of the classroom. There's some good comments in here, guys. Thank you for sharing this. These are great. Make sure you read this chat because I see a lot of good things. There's the standards in there. I have rehearsal skills posted. Somebody put some links in the chat. This is super helpful. I really, really appreciate you guys sharing your stuff. Okay. Any other questions, Alden, that I should address, you think?
Um, yeah, I think a lot of these have been answered. I will say, like on my end, like I with AI, I've
Mhm.
used there's this thing called Magic School AI that's really great. It auto generates rubrics and you can have it and it does a pretty good job. You can plug in like your state standard, and
Mhm.
then you can tweak it. Obviously with AI, it's 80% the AI, then 20% human check.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that is a great tool. Highly recommend if you're able. Just always, as he said, proof it and make it your own because that is it can look very unemotional and there can be some mistakes and things, so be careful. All right, wait, I see one more question here, 1206. Okay. Could you touch on getting students' voices checked at the beginning of the year? Okay, yeah. All right, so that's Megan. Megan, I have a confession. I had never vocal checked children ever once. My classes were too big. And so it took too much time to do quartets and things like that. So what I did was I listened. I listened when we played the game. I listened when we do follow the hand. I listened when when we're doing a cappella vocal warm-ups, and I can pinpoint where the problem is and who the problem is and without pointing them out. Kids don't like to sing in front of most middle school kids don't want to sing alone. Most middle school kids are terrified of being picked out. Not all, there are some soloists, but we have to make sure that we understand that they don't really want to do that. So if you need to do it and you want to find a way to do it out of class time, I would recommend doing that when they're not going to be terrified or just trying to figure out how to listen as you're doing a cappella stuff. And then when you hear a problem, like when I hear a kid dropping the octave, I'm like, come stay after class with me or come in the morning and let's figure this out, and make them feel like it's not a problem. They're not defective. It's just that, you need a little help and that's why I'm here. And that's how you approach it. It's important for students to sing both parts so they learn the fundamentals of singing melody and harmony parts. I don't know if that's an answer to somebody. But yeah, it is important for them to sing both parts, Matthew. A lot of teachers will teach second period alto and third period soprano, right? And I understand why you have to do that in certain situations. I mean, if you don't see them very much, I get it. But in that situation, I would voice memo record, so they hear and they can sing with them before you put them together for a concert because they need to get together. And it would make it easier if they've heard it already because they're immediately, if they get with people they haven't ever heard before, they start looking around the room like, where's the sound coming from? And they're not watching you, because they're just trying to digest all of that. Thanks for this rubric, Rose. You guys, I'm going to start to wrap it up here. I just want to say again, thank you, Alden, for being here and helping us stay safe. Thanks for the live questions and for the chat questions. You guys, I'm going to send something out about the end of July soon with John Crafton and Sight Reading Factory. I really appreciate all of you. I hope you have a great summer. Please take time for yourself to relax and rejuvenate. You've earned it. All right. Take care.
Could you quickly tell us your email address for us to sign
Yes.
up again?
In the middle with Mr. D at gmail.com. Just write subscribe. And you guys take advantage of the free stuff in my store because it'll stop at 1. All right. And then that big mega bundle is half price until 1. All right. Take care. See you. Thanks again.